Hi, I'm Danielle, and this is Chatter Out Loud, a podcast where I share thoughts and TV commentary, starting with one of my favorite shows, Big Brother. In this episode, I'm chatting about Celebrity Big Brother Season 3, and I have a few live feed updates and a spoiler. And the spoiler, I've been sharing the same one in the past couple of episodes, and that's because they haven't aired that part of the show yet. I suspect we'll see it in tonight's double eviction episode. But I just wanted to give a heads up that there is a spoiler I'm sharing in this episode. So if you're not a fan of knowing who has either won an HOH, a Power of Veto, or has been nominated before it airs on CBS, then you should wait until that episode airs and then come back and listen to my recap. Okay? But if you are interested, keep listening. There's a few things happening on the feeds, so let's get into it. All right. There was something interesting that wasn't too long of a conversation, at least from what I saw. But to summarize, Todrick was trying to get Todd to stay on the block and have Cynthia and Misha vote Lamar off. Todd basically said he's too afraid to take that chance. I don't know who came up with this plan, either Misha or Todrick. But wouldn't that be something if Todd did not take himself off the block and he goes home? That would be, we would clown him, right? So in my mind, I'm trying to send him positive vibes and saying and sending the thoughts, don't be another Marcellus. Don't be another Marcellus, right? But I suspect Todd will he knows enough of the game to use the veto on himself. So I don't think they are going to convince him to keep himself up there, right? All right. Later on, I see Todrick is helping Cynthia prepare for what I would imagine the next HOH competition. They're practicing, or he's helping her with questions about days in the house. We see that as a competition or part of a competition in every season. So he's questioning her, like, when did so-and-so get HOH? What day was it this? What day was it that, And we see that every year. So he's helping her with questions about days in the house. I haven't seen too much on the feeds today, but I can imagine he's doing that to maybe help Cynthia win the HOH. I can't confirm that, but I suspect that's what it's for, right? This way, if she does win, she can not only put Misha on the block, right? But she would put Todd next to Misha, leaving Todrick off of the block. Right? And Todrick will be the sole vote. That's if he didn't win POV. But I suspect it's to his benefit. It's self-serving for him. That's why he's helping her. And he's been getting cozy with her. They've been talking game. I think it's strategic on Todrick's behalf. And it's smart, right? He's covering his bases. I mean, look, the only person he has to worry about now in the house is Todd, right? Because he and Misha close. They're their ride or die, or trying to go to the end. And Todd knows the game more than Lamar. So Lamar is not really a threat. And Lamar hasn't proved that he can win anything in the house. And Cynthia is the same. So they're getting rid of Lamar tonight. That's what we suspect. And so his next obstacle in his head is Todd, right? And so he's trying to help Cynthia be in a position that will benefit Todrick, for another week, or get Todrick to the end. I think it's strategy. I think it's kind of clever. Good gameplay. But anyway, it makes sense why he's been complimenting Cynthia, telling her she's a nice person. She had a great career. Like, they're getting cozy. And so this all makes sense in terms of what he's trying to prepare Cynthia for and how it'll benefit him, right? It'll keep him off the block, basically. All right. I also saw Todrick and Misha going over days in the house. I haven't seen Todd or Lamar go over anything. At least I haven't seen it on the feed. That doesn't mean they haven't, but I haven't seen it. So whatever, right? Todrick and Misha are talking about past seasons of Celebrity Big Brother. He references Omarosa, saying that she's TV gold and wish that she was here in the house with them. I would have loved to see that because I believe that Omarosa and Todrick's personalities would clash. So in that sense, he's right. I would have loved to see that too, because they would have definitely clashed. Todrick asked Misha when would be a good time to begin telling Cynthia about Todd. And I'm like, oh man. I suspect this meant that he was planning something similar to how he shared information about Shayna, right? When he went to Cynthia first, then Carson. And Cynthia, she's gullible. She bought it the first time. And now that he's building trust with her, well, building trust is reciprocal, I think. But what Todrick's doing, it's not really building trust. He's complimenting Cynthia and cozying up to her. And he's more so manipulating her, right? Manipulating her to trust him. Right, by saying, I'll protect you. You play with integrity. Your career. You're a good person. And Cynthia is eating all of that up. And in turn, she's trusting him, right? So when he tells her something like Todd did X or shares whatever that information is, she'll turn on him meaning Todd, the same way she turned on Shayna. That's what he's doing. So it was just interesting to hear him ask Misha when would be a good time to begin telling Cynthia about Todd. Right. All right. Later, they're out in the hot tub. Todrick and Todd are chatting. Todd is vaping. Todrick has his feet in the hot tub. Todrick mentioned that he hopes Shayna is over her thing after having time to think about it. They're all adults. He's going back to that again, which goes back to what I've been saying, and a lot of people I see online saying that when Shayna said, don't worry, Todrick, I'll get the jury to vote against you. That has stuck in his head and has ticked him off, and it really is working on him because he keeps bringing it up. Right? I think it's his subconscious trying to tell him, like, listen, you're not right. And in his core, he knows he wasn't right. And that's why it won't go away, because it's some type of, I was getting ready to say guilt, but I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not anything like that. I don't think Todrick has guilt. So whatever. Okay. By the way, I see something else popping up all over my Twitter feed, and it's surrounding something else Todrick said and something he did in the house. And this was back after Shayna was evicted. And I'm surprised that I missed this the first time. I had to go back on the feeds and watch. And so for those of you that would like to see this on the feeds before they cut them off on Wednesday, it's on February 15th, and it starts around 9:58 p.m. And I'll try to summarize it really quickly. So Cynthia and Todrick are talking about reality TV. Cynthia says if she could survive 11 years on reality TV, she can do anything. And then Todrick says it has to have been hard to be on that reality show. And remember, we know Cynthia from Real Housewives of Atlanta. Okay? All right. So Todrick asks if anything that has happened bad or any... Let me start over. So he's asking Cynthia if anything was as bad on the show that she was on, anything that bad has happened on that show, was anything as bad in the BB brother house. I'm going to try that one more time. Okay. Todrick asks Cynthia, was there anything in her experience on the 11 years of Real Housewives of Atlanta, was there anything so bad that it was worse or just as bad as something that has happened in the BB house? And Cynthia responds, no, not until your read, right? So she says, no, Todrick, not until your read. And so they're calling it a read. And then she said that read gave her a flashback. So whatever Todrick's read was, gave her a flashback to when she was on her reality show. Anyway, long story short, Todd asked her how bad does she think it was, and they're talking about his read. And the read is referring to Todrick's comment to Shayna when she left the house. All right, so let's rewind for a second. Remember, Shayna and Todrick, they were on the outs by the time Shayna was getting evicted from the house. He basically manipulated Cynthia first, then Carson, and they turned the target from Misha to Shayna, and that got her evicted. Well, she wasn't on speaking terms with him. She's had it, and she was ready to go. On the way out the door, Shayna yells to Todrick, "Don't worry, Todrick. I'll get the jury to vote against you." Right? "Don't worry, Todrick. I'll get the jury to vote against you." And Todrick's response was, "Don't be too hard on me." So hold on to that for a few seconds. In that moment, I didn't think anything of it. But hold on to that. So going back to Cynthia and Todrick talking about his read to Shayna, Cynthia said, "I knew it was a read, but I didn't know why she was still out of it because Shayna didn't hug her." So she was out of it. So she couldn't quite put her finger on what that read was, right? Then about 15 seconds later, Carson walks into the room, joins the conversation, and Cynthia asks Carson if it hit him, referring to Todrick's response to Shayna. And Carson says, "Oh, yes." And then he said, "Oh my God, you went there." And then he said, he meaning Carson, said, "Yeah, she was saying it was one of the most painful and terrible things, and that the guy came over and tapped on the glass and said, 'Don't be too hard on me.'" And who Carson is referring to is the home invader, right? So Shayna had an experience where her house was burglarized, home invasion, and the guy apparently tapped on the glass and said to her, "Don't be too hard on me." And Carson was just sharing something that Shayna told him, or maybe all of them, that it was one of the most painful and terrible things she's experienced, right? And so now, let's go back. When Shayna yelled to Todrick, "Don't worry, Todrick, I'll get the jury to vote against you," Todrick's response was, "Don't be too hard on me." So he knew what he was saying. He knew he was trying to, oh my God, it's another low. It's another low. And I'm telling you, his reputation, it's going to take a huge, huge hit. If it hasn't already. The fact that he just referenced that phrase, knowing that that was something that she's gone through, shared with him, and now he used that against her. That was his response, because he was pissed that she said she's going to get the jury to vote against him. And he was so pissed that he yelled that out. And that kind of says something about him, right? That was mean-spirited. It was insensitive. And, people are not liking it online. I mean, they're just tallying it. Tallying. Like, this is another thing. You know, he has said so much, done so much. He wasn't like before he came into the Big Brother house. And in the beginning, I could not see it. I'm like, he's talented. He's creative. I don't see like what is happening. But clearly, I didn't even get into it all the way. I didn't dive deep or delve deep into the world of Todrick, right? I didn't follow him. I just know, I remember seeing him on the VMA Awards, I think, with Taylor Swift. And then he came back into, I guess, my conscious when I saw him online after the Big Brother 23 season ended, because he hosted the Cookout Alliance members in his home, right? He gave a big party afterwards because they didn't have a wrap party because we're in a pandemic. So he hosted a party at his home, and then apparently they stayed a little longer, weeks, I think, because they were making TikTok videos, Instagram. They kept posting. And it was so funny because people were saying, man, we're getting I don't know. Everyone was excited because they kept seeing BB23 folks. Anyway, he was the host. But this is, I don't know. I didn't see it in the beginning. The longer he has stayed in this house, the worse he's gotten. Well, I don't know if it's worse. I think this is always the person he's been, but we're more enlightened. Or I should speak for myself. I'm more enlightened now. The longer he has stayed on this show, and he really has damaged his reputation. And I don't know. I feel for him. I don't know how he can fix it or if he's wanting to fix it. I mean, is it that much damage where it's going to ruin his career? I don't know. But this is not looking good. And this was just yet another example of how mean he is. And it's so sad. And I guess the reason it keeps going viral, all the things he's doing and saying, the reason it keeps going viral is because it's really outside of the game, you know? I mean, people lie in the game saying they're going to protect you when they don't. They're in multiple alliances. Like, those things aren't things that people are holding on to, right? We all accept that as fans. You know, you switch teams, you switch alliances, you may vote someone out that you said you weren't going to vote out. I mean, that's part of the game, that's expected. But the stuff that he's saying and doing in the House, it's problematic. And, you know, and I keep, in my mind, I keep saying, you know, he's a human. So I'm like, we got to see a different side. And so when he did that whole HOH ceremony, I called it an HOH musical theater or HOH musical theater. That made me laugh. It did. It was funny. In the moment, it cracked me up. And I said, okay, well, they're trying to show a different side, right? Because it's all negative online about him. It's all negative. And so I figured this was a way CBS was trying to show a different side, you know? I mean, they have not been airing a lot of the stuff on the live feeds. He's been getting a lot of stuff talked about online. It's awful. Excuse me. But yeah, when I learned about that comment, I thought, oh, wow, that was messed up. He's very mean. And it's not funny. It's a nervous laughter, but his reputation is going to take a hit if it hasn't already. I'm hoping for at least that comment, the don't be too hard on me. I'm hoping that at a minimum, he would give both a private and a public apology to her. And the only reason I'm hopeful is because later, if you continue to listen to that clip, later he says he know that his mom would have said, you shouldn't have said that, right? And then he said, and I don't disagree. So he knows that was messed up to say. He knows that was wrong and that was insensitive. And so the fact that he knows that, you know, hopefully that will, I don't know, that'll sit with him and he'll at least apologize for that. Because he's saying that he knows that was wrong. He hasn't said all the other stuff that I don't think anything else he said in the House he thinks is wrong. But at least in that at a minimum, he admitted that he knows that was wrong. So hopefully he'll apologize. It's something else. It's something else. All right. A couple of minutes ago. Oh no, I already talked about that a couple of minutes afterwards when he admitted. A fun thing that we learned was Todd Bridges. He plays baseball in the league on the West Coast, and he has been for 25 years, both him and his brother. And the reason this came up is because he keeps saying, I got to get in shape. I got to get in shape. And Misha's like, well, when does the baseball start? And he says in March. So he plans on getting in shape by March. Oh, we also learned from Todd Bridges that Cynthia and Shayna almost got into a fight. And Todd Bridges had to intervene. I've been looking for that too on the live feeds, but I haven't seen that at all. But he made a reference to that whole thing that was going on with Shayna. Shayna was yelling, and then Cynthia was getting ready to approach her, you know, in response. And Todd Bridges says, "Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa," and he walked Cynthia away. And then, like, Cynthia snapped out of it because she realized, "Whoa, I'm on TV. I don't want to do this," you know. I haven't seen it on the live feeds. If anyone else has seen that, let me know. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and I feel like all of these feeds, Todrick is exhausting, right? I mean, he says so many foul things in the House. Now he's talked about his neighbors. He's talked about his neighbors. He mentioned that they are kind of entitled. And he's hinting that his neighbors are upset with him because when he moved in, because he built his huge house and compared to theirs, which are tiny. So, as anyone kept count, seriously, like he's talked about Teddy, NSYNC Chris, Shayna, Lamar, Todd, Cynthia, his friend Tamar Braxton, his mother, former dancers, former co-workers, and now his neighbors. Like, it's so exhausting. It's so exhausting. And the thing is, it's like, and this is why I say he lacks self-awareness, because he has a problem with everyone. Like, everybody is wrong, Todrick. Like, everyone is living their life wrong. You're the only person in the entire world that knows how to live right, or you know everything. Just, I don't know. I can't understand it. Personally, for me, I like having peace in my life. I mean, the older I get, the more I value peace, you know? I don't like conflict. I don't like drama. I like watching it. But in my own life, I like peace. I value that, you know? But for Todrick, he is nowhere near that. And I feel for him. I was getting ready to say he's a young guy, but he's like in 35, 36. I mean, that's young, I guess. But it's not like someone in their 20s where they have time. You know, all of us in our 20s. I mean, we all have stories, right? And things where we're like, what? How did we survive? Like, how did you survive your 20s? But now he's in his 30s and, you know, maybe after this experience, he'll be closer to peace and try. I don't know. I don't want to, predict anything. Who knows? For all we know, Todrick can get out of the house and say, F all of y'all. I was right. What I said was right. Here's why. He'll put out a video to explain why he was right, why we're all wrong, and go kick rocks. Like, I feel like that's his energy, right? He's just not ready to grow. And hopefully, like, the world would let him or allow room for him to grow and correct himself, you know, correct mistakes. But this cancel culture is serious. Hopefully he'll have room to grow. I don't know. He has said and has done a lot of foul things. And until he recognizes the things that he has said and done are problematic, nothing's going to change. Nothing. All right. That's all I wanted to say. Man, I wish I would have ended on something else that was funny, but I can't. So that's all I have. So be sure to come back, give me a listen, like, follow, share, subscribe. You can leave me a comment, leave me a message. If you're listening to the podcast, there's a link to leave me a message. So check that out. You can find me by looking for Chatter Out Loud. I have this podcast. I tweet. I'm on YouTube. So look for Chatter Out Loud and you'll find me. All right. My name is Danielle and you're listening to my podcast, Chatter Out Loud. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, I appreciate your support. And that's all I have. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.